Dear listeners, we're back with a new story. Get ready for cheating, revenge, and wild relationship drama. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the table we'd shared for so many years. I stood at the counter, pouring myself a cup of coffee, the familiar ritual offering a momentary sense of normalcy. Nina had been distant lately, her silence often more telling than words. As I stirred in the cream, I felt the weight of the unknown pressing in around me. "Sam," she said, her voice slicing through the stillness. I turned to find her leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, a look on her face that I couldn't quite decipher. "We need to talk." "Sure," I replied, trying to keep my tone light despite the gnawing anxiety in my stomach. I set the coffee down and faced her. "What's on your mind?" Nina took a deep breath, her eyes darting away for a moment as if she were gathering her thoughts. "I've been thinking about us. About our marriage." My heart raced. I had felt this coming, yet nothing could prepare me for the reality of it. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice steady, though I felt a lump rising in my throat. "I think we should separate." Her words hung in the air, a heavy silence enveloping us. I struggled to process what she was saying, the years of shared memories flashing before my eyes. "Separation?" I echoed, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. "You really think that's the answer?" "I don't know, Sam," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I just feel lost. We've been drifting apart for so long. I need time to figure things out." I looked at her, searching for the woman I had fallen in love with, the vibrant, passionate woman who had once dreamed alongside me. "But what about everything we've built together? Our family? Our life?" "I know," she replied, tears glistening in her eyes. "But I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not." A mix of emotions surged within me, hurt, anger, confusion. "You really want to throw away 24 years like it's nothing?" I took a deep breath, willing myself to remain calm. "If you think this is what you want, then fine. I'll respect your decision." Nina's expression shifted, surprise crossing her face. "You're not going to fight me on this? What good would it do?" I shrugged, trying to sound nonchalant, but inside I was reeling. "If this is what you truly want, then I'll pack my things and move out. But I need you to know that if you find someone else during this separation, it will lead to divorce. I won't sit around waiting for you." "Sam, that's not fair," she protested, her voice rising. "I didn't mean for it to come to this." "Neither did I replied, the firmness in my tone surprising even myself. "But if we're doing this, we need to be clear about what it means. No strings attached. Just separation." The silence that followed was thick with unspoken words. Nina glanced away, her shoulders slumping as the reality of the situation settled in. "I didn't expect you to react this way," she murmured, almost to herself. "I didn't expect to hear what you just said," I countered, the weight of my own emotions threatening to spill over. "But if this is how it's going to be, I'm not going to fight a losing battle. I'll start packing." As I turned to the bedroom to gather my belongings, the sound of my footsteps felt heavier than ever. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was changing, and not necessarily for the better. Behind me, I could hear Nina's quiet sobs, a painful reminder of the life we were about to leave behind. I opened the closet and began pulling out clothes, memories flooding back with each piece I touched. "Sam," she said softly, breaking the silence. "Are you sure about this?" I paused, my heart aching at the vulnerability in her voice. "I don't think we have a choice anymore, Nina. If we don't take this step, we might lose each other for good." As I finished packing, I realized that while I was physically moving out, part of me would always remain anchored to the life we had built together. In that moment, I felt both the sting of loss and the bittersweet taste of newfound freedom, unsure of what the future held but ready to face it head-on. Days blurred into a routine I had never expected. The sun rose and set over my new apartment, each sunrise marking another day of separation from Nina. The unfamiliar walls echoed with silence, a stark contrast to the laughter and chatter that once filled our home. I spent my mornings waking up alone, fumbling through the remnants of my old life as I brewed coffee and scrolled through social media, searching for something to distract me from the nagging ache of loneliness. One afternoon, while nursing a cup of coffee at the small cafe down the street, I first met Lily. She was sitting at a nearby table, her laughter ringing out like a melodic chime that drew my attention. A friend of mine had mentioned the place, a cozy spot that served the best pastries in town, and I had come to escape the hollow echo of my new reality. As I glanced over, I caught her eye. "Hey there," she smiled, her brown curls bouncing as she gestured to the empty chair across from her. "Is this seat taken?" "Not at all," I replied, feeling an unexpected spark of excitement. "I'm Sam." "Lily," she said, extending her hand. "Nice to meet you, Sam. You look like you could use a good cup of coffee." "Yeah, you could say that," I chuckled, trying to shake off the weight of my recent separation. "It's been a rough couple of weeks." "Ah, I see. The infamous post-separation phase," she said knowingly, her eyes sparkling with empathy. "I went through something similar a while back. It can feel like you're lost in a fog." "Exactly," I replied, grateful for her understanding. "It's hard to find your footing again." We talked for hours, sharing stories about our lives, our loves, and our losses. I found myself laughing, genuinely enjoying the moment, a feeling I hadn't experienced in far too long. As we wrapped up, Lily looked at me thoughtfully. "You know, it's good to see you smiling again. You should let yourself enjoy life. It's too short to dwell on the past." I nodded, appreciating her perspective. "You're right. Maybe I'm ready for a new chapter." The days turned into weeks, and my meetings with Lily became a welcome distraction. She was spontaneous, adventurous, and filled with life, a refreshing change from the weight of my past. We explored the city together, sharing small joys like trying out new restaurants and attending local art exhibits. I began to feel a sense of freedom I hadn't realized I was missing. One evening, as we strolled through a park, I turned to her. "You know, I really didn't expect to connect with anyone like this so soon after everything," I admitted, my heart racing. "It feels nice to be around someone who understands." "I get it," she said, her expression softening. "It's important to find joy again. We can't let our past define us." Just as I was starting to feel like I could truly move on, my phone buzzed, interrupting the moment. It was Nina, and for a brief second, my heart dropped. I hesitated before answering. "Hello, Sam, we need to talk," she said, her voice tense. "Now. Can't this wait?" I replied, trying to keep the annoyance out of my voice. I could already sense where this was headed. "No, it can't," she insisted. "I just saw you with someone." My stomach nodded. "Lily," I confirmed, unable to mask the edge in my tone. "We've been hanging out." "I thought that was clear. You're moving on, and I don't know how to handle that," she said, frustration evident in her voice. "It feels like you're already erasing everything we had. Isn't that what you wanted?" I shot back, a surge of emotion overwhelming me. "You were the one who wanted the separation. I'm just trying to find my footing." I know, she replied, her voice softening. "But it hurts to see you with someone else, especially so soon. I thought we were figuring things out." "Figuring things out?" I echoed, incredulous. "You made your choice, Nina. I'm not going to sit around waiting for you to decide what you want." Her silence hung heavily on the line. I didn't expect it to hit me this hard," she finally admitted. "Maybe I was too quick to push for this." I took a deep breath, torn between anger and empathy. Maybe we both rushed into this without really thinking. But if we're going to make sense of it all, we need to set boundaries. This isn't fair to either of us. "Boundaries?" she repeated, and I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. "What does that even mean for us?" "It means we need to be clear about where we stand," I said firmly. "I don't want to hurt you, but I can't go back to how things were. We need to figure out what we want separately first." "Okay," she said quietly, the weight of our conversation settling in. "I guess that's fair." After hanging up, I felt an odd mix of relief and sadness. Lily turned to me, concern etched on her face. "Is everything all right?" "Not really," I admitted, my voice low. "It's complicated. Do you want to talk about it?" she offered gently, her eyes warm and inviting. I thought I was ready to move on," I confessed, feeling vulnerable. "But it's harder than I expected." "Moving on is a process," Lily said thoughtfully. "It's okay to feel mixed up. Just take it one step at a time." As we continued our walk, the warmth of her presence reminded me that even amid the chaos, there was still hope for a new chapter. The sun hung low in the sky as I pulled into the driveway of our old home. It had been weeks since our separation, and the familiar sight felt like a distant memory. I had agreed to meet Nina to talk, but a sense of dread settled in my stomach. Would we argue? Would she attempt to manipulate me into feeling guilty for moving on? I couldn't shake the uncertainty. I parked my car and took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever lay ahead. As I approached the front door, my mind raced through the conversations we'd had since the separation, each one more charged than the last. I knocked, and the door opened almost immediately, revealing Nina standing there, her expression a mixture of apprehension and resolve. "Sam," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hi," I replied, stepping inside. The familiar scent of home washed over me, but it was tainted with an undercurrent of tension. "Thanks for inviting me." Nina nodded and led me to the living room, where we had shared countless memories. The couch was still in its usual spot, but the space felt emptier, like an unfinished puzzle. "I wanted to talk about us," she began, her tone more serious than I had anticipated. "Okay," I said, taking a seat. "What's on your mind?" "I heard you with someone, Sam." "I know you're seeing Lily," she said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Is this what you wanted when we separated? To just move on without even looking back?" I felt a surge of defensiveness rise within me. "You wanted a separation, Nina. I'm not going to sit around pining for what we had. I thought you understood that." Her expression shifted, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. "I didn't expect to feel this way about it. It's hard to see you moving on so quickly." "I thought you wanted this," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You pushed for it. You were the one who said we were drifting apart." "I know, but I thought we'd take some time apart to figure things out, not jump into other relationships," she said, her voice trembling. "It feels like you're erasing our past." "I'm not erasing anything." I shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. "I'm just trying to live my life. You made it clear you didn't want to be with me anymore." Nina stood up abruptly, her hands clenched at her sides. "So that's it? You're just going to forget about everything we had? All the years we spent together?" Her voice wavered, a mix of anger and sadness. "No, it's not about forgetting," I said, my tone softening. "It's about moving forward. We can't keep holding on to the past while we're trying to figure out who we are now." "Who we are now?" she repeated incredulously. "What if I don't want this separation anymore? What if I made a mistake?" My heart raced at her words. "You can't just change your mind now, Nina. You can't expect me to drop everything because you're feeling nostalgic." "I know I can't just expect that," she said, her voice breaking. "But I've been thinking about us, about what we could be. I miss you." I stood there, caught off guard by her admission. "You miss me?" I echoed, unsure how to process this sudden shift. "What about the separation? What about everything you said before?" I was confused, she admitted, tears pooling in her eyes. "I thought I needed space to find myself, but all I've done is feel more lost without you." I took a step closer, feeling the tension shift in the room. "Nina, this is complicated. You can't just expect me to go back to how things were. If we're going to try to figure this out, we need to set boundaries. We can't go back to the same old patterns that led us here." "Boundaries?" she asked, her voice softening. "What do you mean?" "I mean we need to be clear about what we want and what we're willing to work on," I said, my heart racing. "If we're going to move forward, we can't keep dragging the past into it." She nodded slowly, absorbing my words. I think I understand. I don't want to lose you. Then let's figure this out together, but it has to be different, I replied, my heart aching. We both have to be committed to making changes. Nina wiped away a tear, her expression shifting from despair to determination. Okay. I'm willing to try. I just don't want to let go of what we had. Neither do I said quietly. But we need to be realistic. It won't be easy. I know, she said, her voice steadier now. But maybe we can find a way back to each other without repeating our mistakes. As we stood in the living room, a cautious hope blossomed between us, fragile yet palpable. I didn't know what the future held, but I felt a flicker of possibility. Perhaps we could carve out a new path, one where both of us could rediscover who we were, together. The weeks following our confrontation were a whirlwind of emotions. Nina and I spent time talking, opening up about our fears and desires in a way we hadn't done in years. It felt raw and unsettling, but also refreshing, like breaking through a thick layer of ice. Each conversation peeled back the layers of hurt that had built up between us, allowing us to reconnect on a deeper level. As the sun dipped low on a Friday evening, I found myself sitting on the balcony of my new apartment, the cool breeze carrying with it the promise of change. I had invited Nina over for dinner, hoping that a relaxed atmosphere might lead to an honest discussion about our future. My heart raced with anticipation and uncertainty. Would she still feel the same after everything we'd shared? When the doorbell rang, I took a deep breath and opened the door to find Nina standing there, her face flushed from the cool evening air. She wore a simple dress that accentuated her figure, and for a moment, I was struck by how beautiful she still was. "Hey," she said softly, a smile breaking through her initial nervousness. "Hey, you made it," I replied, stepping aside to let her in. "I hope you're hungry." I tried my hand at pasta. "Pasta?" she teased, raising an eyebrow. "Is that a bold move or a desperate one?" "Let's just say I'm experimenting," I laughed, feeling the tension ease slightly. "But it's either that or takeout, so choose wisely." We settled at the small dining table I had set up, complete with candles flickering gently in the dim light. As we ate, the conversation flowed easily, each bite easing the heaviness of our past. "This isn't bad, Sam," Nina said, taking another forkful. "You might just have a future in culinary arts." "Don't get too carried away," I replied, enjoying her laughter. "I'm still figuring out what I can burn." As we finished dinner, I could feel the gravity of our situation hovering between us. "So, about everything we've been talking about," I began, my voice hesitant. "Where do we go from here?" Nina set down her fork, her expression turning serious. "I've been thinking a lot about us. About what went wrong and what we need to do differently if we're going to try again. I think we both have some things to work on," I admitted. "We can't go back to the way things were. I don't want to hurt you again." "I don't want to hurt either of us," she said, her eyes searching mine. I realized that I was so focused on what was wrong that I forgot to appreciate what was right between us. I felt the same, I confessed, my heart racing. I let anger and frustration cloud my judgment. "But I want to be better. I want us to be better." Nina leaned forward, resting her chin in her hands. "What if we set some ground rules? Like, if something is bothering us, we promise to talk about it immediately instead of letting it fester." "That sounds fair," I agreed, feeling a weight lift. "And maybe we can schedule regular check-ins, like date nights or just time to talk about our feelings." "Date nights," she echoed, a smile breaking through the seriousness of our conversation. "You mean like the ones we used to have?" "Exactly," I said, warmth spreading through me. "We can find ways to keep the spark alive. But we have to commit to being honest with each other." "Agreed," Nina said, her smile fading slightly. "But what if we encounter obstacles? We've both changed. How do we handle that?" "We face them together," I said firmly. "If we're going to make this work, we need to be a team. I won't hide things from you, and I want you to be open with me, too." "Okay," she said softly, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I can do that. I want to make this work, Sam." I miss you so much. I miss you too, I replied, my voice thick with emotion. I never stopped caring about you, even when things were hard. A silence fell between us, filled with unspoken feelings and a shared longing. I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine. Let's make a pact, I said, squeezing her hand gently. No matter what happens, we'll always choose to communicate. We can't let the past dictate our future. Nina nodded, her eyes shining with tears. I promise. As we sat together, the warmth of her hand in mine felt like a lifeline, pulling us back toward each other. I could see a path forward, a new chapter in our story, one built on honesty, vulnerability, and a renewed commitment to one another. Let's celebrate this new beginning, I said, a smile creeping onto my face. How about dessert? I might have some chocolate hidden away. Now you're speaking my language, she laughed, the sound filling the room with warmth. As I stood to get dessert, I felt a renewed sense of hope wash over me. We were embarking on this journey together, ready to face the challenges ahead. The shadows of our past were still present, but they no longer felt insurmountable. Instead, they were reminders of the strength we had found in each other, and the love that had endured despite the trials we had faced.